He's one of our favorite people. He's the head coach and managing general of the Argonauts. Here is Jim Barker. Hello, Coach.
How you doing, Bob?
Swell. So I didn't watch the draft. You'll forgive me.
No, that's all right.
But I picked up the paper the next morning and I was going through the list. Holy cow, it's confusing. Like,
yeah.
Did anybody make their own pick in this entire draft?
Well, it was really a bizarre draft because there was no like standout players that you could say this guy for sure would be number one, and there was a ton of question marks throughout, and I think people just waited until the end, and there were beauties in the eye of the beholder in draft, and there's certain players when they become available, you go ahead and take them. So for us, we moved from 12 to 7. And because after Iannuzzi got picked at 6, we felt like the players that could come in and play for us were taken, and we were going to take a future at 12. And we had so many picks later on, we were able to give up a 4th round pick and just swap places with Saskatchewan and get the best of what we thought was the best possibility for us, Tyler Holmes in the 1st round rather than wait around for the 2nd. So that's why we made the trade we made, and I know Calgary wanted to get Parker, and so they swapped place with Wally, and I think ultimately Wally wanted Iannuzzi. So it was just one of those things. It was just a bizarre draft, and the CFL draft always is, as you know, because there's so many different weird things that go into it.
I believe there actually was a 3rd or 4th round pick that at one point every team in the Canadian Football League had. It was Winnipeg's.
You might be right.
Winnipeg
via
Edmonton, via Calgary, via Winnipeg, via Toronto, via BC, via Montreal.
Yeah. And those 3rd and 4th round picks are, they're used a lot in trades when, during the season when you trade and you say, well, okay, we'll give them a 3rd round pick next year or a 4th round pick next year. 5th and 6th round picks you don't care as much about, but 3rd and 4th round picks you can sometimes get good players in there. So like we've already acquired a 3rd round pick next year in a deal we did. So you start to stockpile those 3rd and 4th round picks, and then when you get in, once you get into the draft, because we don't know who's in next year's draft. I mean, we have an idea. We went down and we have an idea, but we don't know all the ins and outs of it.
Sure.
So you think 3rd and 4th round picks are good. And in this draft, they maybe weren't as important as they might be in other drafts.
So the kid you take is Tyler Holmes out of Tulsa, big boy, right? Mm-hmm. Offensive lineman.
Yeah, from Ottawa.
Hasn't he got another year eligibility at Tulsa?
Correct. He's got he'll play his senior season at Tulsa, and right now, what we do is we have to take a look at what the NFL teams are talking about in terms of these players. Philip Blake, for example, who's also in our draft, is being projected as a potential 2nd, 3rd rounder, very similar to what Watkins was last year. Then Watkins goes and has a great season, and he ends up being a 1st round draft pick. And did you watch the NFL draft at all?
A few minutes.
Did you watch when Danny Watkins walked across?
I heard about it. I saw the replay.
That was the ultimate of the whole NFL draft.
It was very cool, wasn't it?
Was Danny Watkins. I mean, I was proud to be a part. I'm only a landed immigrant, but I was proud to be a landed immigrant of Canada. Watching that kid with true enthusiasm,
yep.
Walk across and have the firefighters from Kelowna in the stands.
Yeah,
that's what it should be all about, not what it's become. And that was a great moment, but. To digress, he was ranked last year as a 2nd, 3rd round potential. Had a great year, played great in the Senior Bowl. Ends up being a late first round pick.
Never know.
So Philip Blake is right now being looked at very similar to that 2nd, 3rd round, and then Mo Petrus, the kid that Hamilton took from Connecticut, he's being looked at as a 3rd, 4th, and Tyler Holmes is a true tackle. But he's not really big enough. He's only about 6'4.5" and probably 275 to 280 for the NFL. So he's being projected right now as a 7th round free agent. And we felt like for us, he could be a tackle in this league for 10 to 15 years, and that's why you take that guy. Is you think, from an NFL standpoint, they're not going to move him into guard because he's a little light in the ass, and they're probably going to struggle to play tackle in that league. But he'll get an opportunity, and then you just, you wait and see.
What does an offensive lineman make in this league?
It depends. I mean,
okay. Who do you think?
Well, Murphy's probably the highest paid guy.
And what is he about?
I can't tell. I mean, he's in the.
What would you guess?
150 to 200.
Oh, is he that high?
Yeah.
Oh, that's more than I would have thought.
A lot of the best Canadians are in that 100 to 140 range. And then rookies are down in the 50 to 70 range.
Yeah.
But if you're a good Canadian offensive lineman and prove you can play in this league, you become valuable because it's a matter of supply and demand.
Oh, sure.
Murphy's created supply for himself because he's just unique, and he brings an entire group. To me, the whole key to being a great player is making the people around you better, and I think Murphy does that, and that's why for us he's worth that money. For other people, they say you pay him too much and that kind of thing, but that's everybody's entitled to their opinion.
So what position would pay the least in the CFL, historically?
Historically, probably running backs.
Really?
Yeah.
Because there's so many?
They're just, they're dime a dozen.
Really, huh?
Yeah.
Now, if you get a good one, he could be a high-paid player.
Yeah. Now, Joffrey Reynolds is probably the highest paid in the league right now because he's played the last 5 years and never missed a game. So, Now,
would he make in the twos?
No.
Not that high?
No.
Really, huh?
No. That's,
over 100?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well over 100, but
so
not in the...
Now, what's the minimum in the CFL? Minimum salary?
The minimum is, I think it's up to 43 now.
Right.
So I think
and most running backs...
It could be 44, though. It's 43 or 44.
But historically, most running backs would come in around the minimum?
No, not that low. But running backs, American running backs, you're going to bring in that, probably 50 to 60 range in that.
Wow.
You don't want a guy to come up here and not be able to survive. And when taxes hit and things, it's tough for him to survive. But yeah, and then the highest, if a running back can get to 100, he's pretty good. It's the nature of supply and demand.
Well, sure, I understand. I'm just trying to get a handle on this because
and then once a player establishes himself, like a receiver, obviously G. Roy Simon and Milt Stegall, those guys very high paid because they did it year after year and proved it. And it's funny because you get to a high and then they start going down in their salaries, and it's a question of how far down will they accept. I mean, Kamal Peterson's probably in that situation, and could be, and a couple players. Brock Ralph got released yesterday, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of contracts they're able to get. But no, it's all about supply and demand, and you always try to get younger because we have the cap, and so if you can, the younger the players are, the cheaper they are, and that kind of thing.
We had Michael Hugh on the other day. You know who he is?
Yeah, he runs the UFL.
Yeah, the ugly football league.
Former Jacksonville president or something like that. Yeah.
He was saying.
What does he say about that league?
Well, he was saying that because I was asking about the CFL and whether is it competition to the CFL, and he acknowledged in some ways it is probably, and he was saying that their top players, quarterbacks, might earn 400. And the bottom would be about 50.
Again, well, we'll see.
Well, but
there's a lot of players in that league that didn't get paid on time and
really,
they were paid late. I mean, we hear about it from agents all the time.
Oh yeah.
Now maybe they're paying guys 400. I don't know.
Well, he said a quarterback could make 400.
Yeah.
But he said the bottom was 50, and it just occurred to me that is not dissimilar to what I believed the CFL pay structure was. And I think I'm pretty close. It's pretty close.
Quarterbacks making over that.
Yeah, and and your minimum's 43, so 50 to 400 is a pretty. I mean, that's pretty close.
Pretty equal. The difference is they play 10 games and we play 18.
That's true.
Yeah.
They play in front of nobody. You play in front of somebody.
Correct. We have people. I mean, the game matters up here.
They play in front of cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, the UFL game doesn't matter down there. It just doesn't. Nobody cares about it. They don't. There's no talk of it, and so it's a question of whether you want to, play in a league that matters. Players who come up here leave talking about what a great experience they had and how fun it is to play up here. Players playing in the UFL just talk about, God, I hope I can get an NFL contract this next year.
So if the NFL lockout continues, well, right now it's not on technically, but you know what I mean. If we go through the next couple of months with no contract, CBA, does that impact on you guys at all?
I think it'll impact on some of the lower free agents that they might sign. Now, it'll be interesting to watch what happens with Enoch Muamba because he's a guy that, okay, if you're Enoch Mwamba and you have your agent saying, listen, I got 3 teams going to sign you as soon as that thing ends. And I had Corey Greenwood last year, and nobody thought he would make it. He signed basically 10 days after they signed most players. He went down there, and he probably made more in 1 year than he would have made in 3 years of his contract in the CFL. Now, what do you want to do? Do you want to go and sign in the CFL, or do you want to wait and take a chance and see if one of these teams will sign you? Because next year there might, you might not have that opportunity. Once they sign in our league, the minimum they can get is 2 years, which is 1 plus an option, and they're not allowed to leave in their option year anymore.
That's right. So, but that can be, you can view that, Coach, as a negative if you're the player in this situation.
Well, I'm asking you, if you're Enoch Mwamba, what do you do?
I don't know what you do. I don't have the answer.
And that's the intrigue of our draft, is when you draft first overall and you choose to take a player like that who has an agent who has a history of, holding players out to try to get them to do that. It's a risk, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that transpires as to whether they're able to sign him or not, because they could have signed him prior to the draft, and they didn't. It'll be real interesting. So,
if you were in Winnipeg's position, would you have taken Mwamba first?
It depends. If
you knew you could sign him,
signed.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have had him signed, I wouldn't have, because I've been down the road with that agent before.
Who's the agent?
A guy named Hardaway. He's American guy.
Oh, why is he a dick?
I don't know if he's a dick. I mean, none of them are dicks. They do their job. Everybody has certain things they try to do for their client.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't hold anything against the guy. The guy, he got Corey, ultimately what he wanted, which was a chance to play in the NFL, and then Corey made the most of it. So, you can't say he's a dick. He's trying to do his job for his client, but they become a little more difficult for us to deal with, and that factors in when you go to draft a player.
But there are some agents that, when the phone rings and you see on the call display that it's them, you go, oh God, I don't want to talk to that guy.
No question. And there are guys that I'll shy away from.
Sure.
That I won't. Life's too short to deal with some guys.
Jerks. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously a player's ability speaks to whether or not you're going to deal with that guy. But if a player's a borderline guy and he's got an agent that's not fun to deal with, you just go take another player.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what this business is about. When you're around for a while, you learn the ones that they always are trying to eke another dollar out, and then there's those that really understand and really get it and understand what our league's about. It's tough sometimes for the American guys when they come up here, because they don't make money on guys in this league for the most part. The American agents.
No, if you're making 4 or 5 points, I mean, you're making nickels and dimes, really.
Correct. That's their whole thing is to try to get them into the National Football League, and that's why when we changed our rule, we became not as attractive to those agents, because now they're looking at 2 years, and a guy falls completely off the NFL's radar in 2 years sometimes. Yep. So.
We got to get out of here because we're out of time. We went an entire segment there, and we didn't even poke at each other. That was good.
You didn't say one word about Cleo Lemon. It's unbelievable. I'm so proud of you, Bob. You're making progress.
Did you get rid of him yet, or is he still around?
We'll talk again.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye.
There's Jim Barker, the general manager and head coach of the Toronto Argonauts.